There is an intergenerational interaction happening. So the younger generation learning from the ones who are more experienced, who have the wisdom. But on the one hand, it's also those that are learning from the digital savviness of the younger generation.
Hard money is important, but I think the environment that we could provide where people really thrive, where Mondays are really looked forward to.
Right.
And I think it's a great metric.
In the past, where maybe in the 80s, people will want to be a people manager. Nowadays, what I'm seeing is that people refrain from being a people manager. They'd rather be an individual contributor.
It's so tough to take feedback. I can talk about myself. Maybe 10 years back, a lot of people will say that, maybe you can also become better at these areas. And the first human behavior is that, why should I?
You
Right.
tend to be defensive.
You're
no?
trying to be
Yeah.
defensive. And when you peel those layers off is where you start realizing maybe that version of me was not the best, but you know what, I can actually become better at this.
The moment you bring in a talent into your organization, you're practically welcoming the family as well. Because what you do for them, how you develop them, actually impacts their family as well. So it's to your point, it's an ecosystem, right? That we need to preserve at the same time and develop.
Lovely to have you with us, Nerissa. We've been wanting to do this for a long time. We missed out on one occasion, but I'm glad we have you here.
Happy to be here as well, and I'm very excited about conversing some of the new things that we're doing as well. Thank you.
Talk us through your life journey a bit, and maybe to add a bit of spice to it, what's the most riskiest thing you've done as part of your career or your life?
Right. Perhaps the most riskiest, in terms of career, was moving to a local organization,
Mhm.
having been with global companies, having worked with global companies for more than 30 years.
Mm.
And so for me, it was risky because I didn't know what it's like to work for a local organization. More so, the role was really to transform HR. So it was risky, but at the same time, it was very exciting for me, to be honest. And I think I made the right decision after all.
So, what got you into HR, first of all?
Oh, interesting. I took up psychology
Mhm.
in college, and I actually didn't know exactly what I was going to do after.
Okay.
But my neighbor sent my CV to Philips Electronics,
Okay.
which eventually became my first employer. So eventually, I did almost all facets of HR. I was a specialist, I was a generalist, I became local country head to a regional in APAC. So it was really good because I feel that I had the opportunity to practice what I've learned over the years and learn from the various companies I've worked with. Philips, I was there 3 times, then moved to a search firm. And then I had worked for the first time the banking sector. So my first bank experience was with Standard Chartered.
Mm.
Then I had worked with GE Money when they set up a company here in the Philippines. Then stayed very short at one of the local banks in the Philippines, and then moved back to GE,
Mm.
and then from there Deutsche, HSBC, and then Security Bank. So I would consider myself now more on the banking financial industry more than the consumer electronics type of industry. So it's been a journey, and I'm glad that I've gone through those changes in my life and in my career as well.
Lovely. I would say you've been amount of experience you have, and you've worked across sectors. You've been in the industry of people. Uh,
Yes, of course. At the end of the day, it's about
yes,
people, right?
yes, at the core of it, and that's what we do on the Humanscope as well. I think it's the people that bind us together, that bind businesses together, bind ecosystems together, and I feel myself and our community of HR leaders, we have this unique opportunity of helping and enabling that ecosystem, championing that, and the kind of work that we do, it sort of multiplies into great organizations, great nations, happier families. I personally feel that it couldn't be at a better place than
Correct.
this.
Correct. Because you impact lives,
Yes.
right? So the moment you bring in a talent into your organization, you're practically welcoming the family as well.
Yes.
Because what you do for them, how you develop them, actually impacts their family as well. So it's to your point, it's an ecosystem, right? That we need to preserve at
Yeah.
the same time and develop.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, in your view, give our viewers a bit of context on where is that ecosystem in the Philippines and how is it evolving? How's the talent demand supply gap playing out? What do you predict? How is it going to evolve further? Because clearly there are some sectors that are have very high demand and not so much supply, but then there is abundance in some of the others as well. There's a lot of mismatch that we observe. What's your take?
Philippines is actually considered as a capital for BPOs and KPOs, as you know. But there's also an emerging source for talent specifically for finance and technology. And some of our talent are now actually moving outside for opportunities. And this has been going on for years. Even nurses actually are on demand. That's why hospitals are really making sure that they bring in the right talent, train them, hopefully retain them. But because of the kind of talent that we bring, it's available, and countries are really looking at specific talents in the Philippines. So my view there is that you will now see that the baby boomers are exiting in the corporate life, and you will see now a growth of your Gen Zs and your millennials, and soon your alpha, right? So it's really the intergenerational work dynamic that is going to be happening in the very, very near future, where you have the baby boomers, the Gen X exiting very soon, and then you have your Gen Zs and your millennials and your alphas coming into the picture. So what I think is really good in the Philippines is that you still see Gen X's and probably slight baby boomers in the corporate, and you actually see that there is an intergenerational interaction happening. So the younger generation learning from the ones who are more experienced, who have the wisdom. But on the one hand, it's also those that are learning from the digital savviness of the younger generation. So it's a perfect interaction that I'm seeing right now. So instead of leveraging, or instead of highlighting the differences, it's really more around leveraging the strengths of each of these generations and how it can work and play together so that they work collaboratively in an organization. So I think that's one component that I see is happening. Of course, there's talent issues. People go to opportunities outside primarily because they also have to support their families here. You see a growing number of OFWs also. But on the one hand, there are also a lot of people coming back because they want to be able to serve, they want to be able to work in the Philippines and improve the lives of others. So that's what I'm seeing at the moment.
Do you see a huge skilling agenda being played out at a country level? And then, of course, you can draw some parallels to that in your organization. How are you orchestrating that? Because it's a big opportunity, I feel, for the whole ecosystem to nurture that talent and give them those opportunities. Very few people actually want to leave all their comfort zone and go outside. If those opportunities and that learning and growth is available domestically, I think it could mean wonders for an economy.
Nice to hear that about the question, because a couple of weeks ago I was in another summit, HR summit, where uh, a professor from a university was talking about how they're developing their curriculum to address the skills shortage of fresh grads going to corporate life, right? Because there's not enough. Most of them are actually looking at theoretical concepts, but the application, the practical application is missing. And so we were actually suggesting that if you want the fresh grads to assimilate quickly to the corporate world, is that you may want to strengthen the internship programs that you have and partner with companies on what skills should they be developing even at school, so that by the time they finish, they're quite prepared to enter the corporate life. Now, in the corporate setting, it's really about looking at what are the prevailing skills that you have in the organization and what skills can you further develop to future proof the organization. So what we're doing is really looking at personalizing skills development. So we have a learning ecosystem wherein people will have a view of what skills they need to do in order for them to perform their job. And there are assessments that they need to take for us to be able to understand what gaps there are. And because of AI and the platforms that we use, we're able to generate platforms or courses that they can take in order for them to develop. Gone are the days where you see consistent classrooms happening left and right. It's really more about personalizing the skills that you need to develop as opposed to providing a one-off event where you go for training. It's also about doing peer mentoring, coaching that you learn from. And on the job is really very, very critical. So we follow the 70-20-10 rule, where 70% is really more on the job, the practical things that you learn at work. And then the 20% is really around mentoring and coaching. And the 10% is really the learning that you do either via digital or classroom training. Yeah.
Interesting. And I'm going to ask you to double click on some of that.
Sure.
Because I'm pretty sure that one is you are looking at existing needs of your organization, but a CHRO like you who has been so strategic in the past, I'm sure you're looking at what's up in the future as well.
Correct.
How is the business evolving?
Correct.
Give us a glimpse around that thought process.
Right. So one of the things that we are starting to look at is looking at the jobs that we have at the moment and which parts of the job can be converted into an AI. Because you want people to be more efficient, but at the same time making sure that AI becomes an enabler for you to make your life much easier so that you can spend more time doing value-adding stuff as opposed to doing what you're doing repetitively.
Yeah.
So these are things that we're looking at. Second is we want people to be digitally savvy. So there are opportunities for them to learn on the go because we have a platform that we use at work that allows them to actually just choose which courses they would like depending on which skill they want to develop. But what I want to see is that maybe a year from now, my CEO asks me, Nerissa, what are the top 3 skills that are prevailing in the organization? And what are the top 3 skills that we are developing? I wish I could answer that in a year from now because we're doing the foundational aspect of that at the moment, but we're also having in the company hyper-personalized courses already for employees where we feel skills need to be developed. So I think overall, we are in the right path. We are making sure that we're not stagnant. We are continually developing our employees. But we're also very futuristic in the way we do things. Like 5 years from now, how does the banking industry look like? How does the kind of work in HR you'll be very different from where it is now with AI, with automation and predictive analysis. You have so much more that you can use and you can be more effective. But how you use the information is really the most important part of what we do.
Yeah. And I feel it's also got to do with how the nature of the whole industry is changing. If you ask me, banking is a digital and tech business today. Than how we would look at traditional banking, how it was happening.
Correct.
People don't go to banks to do transactions today, right? and so is the nature of workforce also growing and evolving.
Mm.
Also, the next set of innovations that need to
Mm.
happen in banking. On the Humanscope podcast, I had the chief digital officer of HSBC,
Mm.
who's focused on innovation, and they are thinking about banking in a completely different space,
Right.
thinking about disrupting products, disrupting the very nature of some of the stuff like credit cards. Like, there is no card today, people in the youth don't need credit, so why are we even calling? So fundamentals
Right.
like that are getting questioned in the industry.
Correct.
Now, keeping that in mind, what do you think organizations should be doing from a learning and workforce skilling standpoint? Is there a view that you might have on how this industry needs to look forward?
I think particularly because I'm in the banking industry, it's about understanding the customer journey, right? In each of the journey that the customer has, you should be able to determine what are the needs of your customer, and that's where you personalize them. Gone are the days where you just give out all the products that you offer to your clients, right? But because of AI and technology, you're able to determine customer A needs this, customer B needs this. So you can then push products to them in a different way. Um, Take, for example, somebody who's been purchasing or have been traveling for a long time, then you can push maybe products related to travel to somebody who's using the credit card, whereas the other might be on sports. So you can actually give them discounts related to sport gadgets or whatever. Now, on the employee side, we pretty much mimic the same. So what you do for your customers, you do for your employees as well. So we understand the employee journey and how important each journey is to each employee. Take, for example, in our case, we have shifted to a flexible benefit program because we've seen that because the population that we have in the bank is composed now of more Gen Zs and millennials, they differ in terms of their needs. And you cannot give them the same list of benefits, but you're allowing them now the freedom to choose which benefits they can choose depending on their life stage, depending on their personal needs. And when we launched that this year, our employees were just so amazed at the power of being able to give them the opportunity to choose which matters most to them. And that's what I think companies should be looking at. So it's not so much about giving fixed benefits, but giving more flexibility for employees to choose what matters most to them.
Wow. Wow. What do you think matters most to them? What have you found
Oh,
personally?
interesting. They like to travel.
Okay.
And so what they do with their FlexBen is they purchase smaller insurance, for example, because they're young, they feel that they're
Yeah.
healthy, so their premiums for insurance probably goes down so that they use up an excess for them to be able to travel. Some actually gadgets, photography, laptops, whatever, and then others lifestyle, beautification, and all that. So
Whatever matters,
it varies. Yeah, it varies. And then for the ones with families,
Yeah.
it affords them the ability to pay for another premium for healthcare, for an insurance of another member of the family. So all these things wouldn't have happened if we have not moved to FlexBen. And the reason why we had moved here was because 2 years back we were being asked to spend for another dependent for our employees. But we said we're going to spend more by providing one more dependent. So as opposed to giving them FlexBen, then they can actually play around with their existing benefits and use up whatever cash for them to purchase what they need.
Wow. Wow. And what has been the role of tech in doing that? Because personalization needs a lot of tech associated as well.
Correct.
Did you have a thought process of orchestrating that in a certain way?
Yes, so in Security Bank, we actually have a project team composed of business leads and tech leads. So we work together with the vendor that we work with. And so it's a big team. So it's not a small project. It's a big one. And tech also plays a very important role.
Yeah. And what about the salary and the comm side of things? Did you guys experiment something over there as well?
What we've seen is that salary and salary is important.
Yes.
But more than that, it's also the kind of culture that you provide to your
Yeah.
employees. We launched sometime in 2023 our employee value proposition because, as I said, we had an HCM transformation. So we actually revamped a lot of processes, a lot of ways of working, and introduced global practices into the bank. And because of that, we figured maybe people don't really appreciate what we're doing. And so we said we will put together an employee value proposition and we call it You Matter.
Okay.
And You Matter has 6 pillars. So it talks about flexibility, it talks about care, it talks about rewarding our employees, enabling them. So all these 6 pillars have specific programs that play underneath them. So that when a person says, I'm doing digital learning, that's enabling me to develop my skills. So while salary is important, it's actually giving them the ability to understand what the company is doing for them. On the one hand, what you will see nowadays, given the population we have in the bank, is they're yearning to look for opportunities where they can add value as well. What's the purpose? Why did
Yeah.
they exist in the organization? And when you give them the reason why you're there and how you're contributing to the company, to the growth of the company, it becomes more meaningful for them. And therefore, they get more engaged. It's not so much about how much they receive, but they see a more holistic view of why they exist in that organization.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think some of the most progressive organizations are thinking and architecting that culture where the purpose takes the center stage. Their individual growth matters so much.
Correct.
Yes, money, hard money is important, but I think the environment that we could provide where people really thrive, where Mondays are really looked forward to.
Right.
And I think it's a great metric.
Correct.
If you really ask
Yes.
me,
Yes.
that are you looking forward to the Monday over the weekend? And yes, out of the 52 Mondays, maybe some it's okay, but majority of them, are you really looking forward to that? I think if we can create a
The
culture and
excitement
environment.
that you're creating for
Yeah.
them to feel like I'm not going to work, right?
Yeah.
That it's I like to go to work.
I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna thrive. I'm gonna have
Yes.
fun
Yes.
while I'm working, of course.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel CHROs can architect that environment, and the more we do that, we would have so many more thriving workplaces.
Right.
Where people are coming and willingly wanting to offer what they have and play at their best potential. At the end of it, the You Matter piece that you're trying to
Yes.
architect,
Yes.
I think is centered around this.
It's a very people-centric approach.
Yes.
Because with technology happening, sometimes we forget that technology is an enabler.
Yeah.
Technology is supposed to amplify humanity, not replace it. And so when we figured out You Matter was our EVP, we wanted to make sure that people feel it, that they experience it themselves. And going back to what you were saying, creating a safe place, an environment where you can be authentic is very, very important. Because if you feel like you're not bringing your true self at work, it defeats the purpose of why you're even there.
Yeah. And especially with all the Gen Z and then the future alpha workforce coming into
Yes.
play, they are not necessarily coming from the scarcity mindset. They are coming from a slightly abandoned mindset.
Yes.
Where the basics are taken care.
It's all there.
It's all there.
Yes.
Now is, how do I build on top of that, and then can you give me an environment that is safe yet challenging, that
Right.
adds me to look at the purpose and drive things.
I think the organization in the future requires a more high touch work environment where you actually have more day-to-day conversations as opposed to allowing machines to work for you or do work for you. It's a combination, really. You have to be able to combine both automation, AI, but make you effective. But at the same time, it should not lose your ability to connect, which is very important.
I think you said it so well. So, what's the role of leaders you feel in terms of doing that? As part of People Matters Sherpa research, which we just launched, one of the key pieces that employees overall in the ecosystem are saying that we genuinely want to work for great leaders. We want to get inspired, we want to follow, but is the leadership authentic? Is the
Right.
leadership transparent? What's the role of then CHROs like yourself in creating those leaders and enabling them as well? Because it really said that's the North Star, really.
Correct. I think any company would say that one of the things that is challenging at the moment is really the people managers that need to be developed. And that's where we need to focus on, because over time, these will be your C suite leaders.
Yeah.
And so, how do you develop them at an early stage and allow for them to fail? Because you'll never be able to perfect, right? I too became a leader, and there were moments where I was not as effective as I am now. But how do you start developing that, and also for them to aspire to be one? In the past, where maybe in the 80s, people will want to be a people manager.
Yeah.
Nowadays, what I'm seeing is that people refrain from being a people manager. They'd rather be an individual contributor. And so, if they do decide to even want to be developed as a people manager, is how do you provide the support, the way you scale them up, the feedback that you provide, the coaching that it's really moments that matter to them. It's how you envision how they could be more effective. And what we're doing, at least, is while providing skills that they can develop, feedback is one of the most important aspect that we're
Okay.
doing. We're doing feedback on what's working well, what's not working well, so that they know exactly how they can do better. In fact, for our new managers, we do what we call an assimilation process,
Okay.
where we actually meet with the manager and their teams, and it's an upward feedback where the manager steps out of the room, HR facilitates, and then we ask questions on what do you want your manager to know about you as a team, what do you want your manager to start, stop, continue. And then we provide that feedback to the manager, and they get a more holistic view of how they are being perceived by their team. So while we have what we call engagement surveys on a yearly basis,
Yeah.
we also have a more pronounced approach to get the right feedback that will be helpful for the manager. You will have to be very courageous to go through that exercise, because it can also be something that might impact you as a person. So we always tell them that treat it as a development for you. Feedback is a gift. So embrace it. And we'll be with you, work with you in helping develop that particular skill. So constant feedback is really important.
Now, I cannot emphasize more. As part of the People Matter journey, we implemented the whole upward feedback very early.
Oh, wow.
And we saw some great results of people. And yes, you're so right. It's so tough to take feedback.
Yes.
I can talk about myself. Maybe 10 years back,
Yes.
a lot of people will say that, Pushkar, maybe you can also become better at these areas. And the first human behavior is that, why should I?
You
Right.
tend to be defensive.
You're
No?
trying to be
Yeah.
defensive. There's always the monkey on your shoulder that keeps telling you, why do you need to do it?
Right.
And when you peel those layers off is where you start realizing maybe that version of me was not the best, but you know what, I can actually become better at this. But it's
Right.
only the data, the inputs, that openness that when I look back 10 years back, I would not want to go back and work for that.
Right.
So it's also realizing that how it
Correct.
sort of evolves. And I think the second thing that worked very well for us is we started looking at feed forward.
Mm.
So we reconstructed the whole concept of feedback,
Mm.
because what happens many a times is, on feedback sessions, you start talking about all that has gone wrong, looking at a rear view mirror.
Right. Right.
And very less time is actually spent on the
How?
forward part of
Right.
things. So that also changed the
Yes.
way. In fact, sometimes vocabulary changes how you
Mm.
understand things and how you action things as well. So
Correct.
some of those things really work for
Right.
us.
I think also part of that is also role modeling.
Yes.
If you think that you have something to bring to the table, you could role model a behavior that you want others to follow. One of the things that we highlight to our leaders is when you're in day to day conversations with your team, and I do this with my team, is there anything I could have done better? Right? Or help you understand if there was something I could have improved, or if there's anything I should do more of. And when you start asking those questions, you will actually get the input. And oftentimes, leaders don't ask those questions because they're afraid. And so it's about really having the courageous mindset, but at the same time, making sure that you also will have to do um, active listening. You have to
Yeah.
listen actively for them to understand that, okay, what I'm telling my boss is something that she's taking positively and she's going to do something about it. And I think that is key
Yeah.
to developing leaders. The more you get upward feedback, because these people can see you, work with you every day, will have the best opportunity or the best, they can actually provide you with that feedback that you will require that
Yeah.
can develop you further.
Absolutely, especially the blind spots, because
Yes.
they are the ones where maximum work needs to
Correct.
happen from a
Correct.
leader standpoint. Now, how do you think are we positioned as HR leaders? Because creating that environment where people can give feedback is also a very important aspect of it. I feel majority of the times a lot of leaders want to create a feedback mechanism, but are constrained by the culture that they have had, for people to open up. That backing needs to happen from the leadership.
Exactly. It's part of the culture.
Yeah.
It has to start from the top because, to my point, if you're not role modeling that behavior, people will not be able to do it. And so it is very important for leaders to be coaches, for them to say, I'm open for feedback. Give me feedback
Yeah.
so that I can be better. And then when you start doing that, they will replicate the same for their respective teams, right? So it's powerful.
Yeah.
So it reinforces the right behavior that you want them to exhibit daily as much as possible.
Yeah, I've seen some of the most powerful CHROs across the world really taking that into their hand and saying that, you know what, no matter how senior is the leader, but we will create an environment where that
Yes,
feedback goes and you
yes.
action things.
As long as you do it respectfully,
Yes, yes, of course.
yes, it should be good.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now I'm going to turn towards the whole aspect that you were talking about on the whole EVP part that you said. Uh, you matter, and I was also going through some of the interesting videos of you matter stories that
Yes.
you launched, and
Correct.
people taking ownership and sort
Right.
of sharing that. What was that participation like from people?
Oh, it was positively taken by
Yeah.
our employees. That was actually a validation on our part that they felt it.
Yeah.
So as I said, we have 6 pillars. So we encourage employee to tell their own stories of how they experience how to be an employee of the bank based on those 6 pillars. So we've had examples of people really benefiting from the flexible work arrangement that we have put together, taking care of a mom who's not well, or taking care of the dog who's dying. All these stories resonated so well to our employees. We felt that internally, while we were good at what we were already saying, that this is you because you matter to us, we wanted to externally share those stories so that it also becomes part of our attraction and retention. Because when people feel that you're proud of being part of an organization that looks after your development, your growth, your total persona, then it helps attract others as well to see, oh, that company is interesting, I'd like to be part of that. And because of that, we've actually increased a lot of visits in our career websites. We have more, and then we have actually lined up other activities. But again, we started with leaders telling their stories, and then we opened it to our employees, and then that's it. So we had a very positive impact
Yeah.
on the lives of our employees, but at the same time, people who were viewing their stories.
Yeah, yeah. You've talked about coaching a multiple
Mm,
times. What kind of coaching culture are you trying to build? Is what's the thought process as part of your people strategy?
right. So as early as 2020, we've actually gone through um, a grow model
Okay.
coaching type. In fact, because that was the pandemic, we would have 3 hours each week where we actually have people managers go through that. So we have a digital toolkit and we have a simulation in which I would sit in for 3 hours
Wow.
and evaluate how the conversation was like. That was our commitment to growing our leaders. And as we evolved, it's now in the platform, and we now have a group of, we call it a coaching circle.
Okay.
So it's composed of 10 people managers who've gone through, graduated from the course, who are actually connecting on day to day challenges
Mm.
about managing people. So it's like a group where, I'm going to talk to this person about performance. How should I go about this? So it's really more about coaching them and mentoring them on how to go about it. The bank has been in existence for now 74 years. We're turning 75.
Wow.
So you have there a couple of very tenured employees who probably got accustomed to being told
Mm.
what to do. And so now we're trying them to undo that, unlearn that, instead of telling people what to do, is have that coaching conversation so that you actually uplift the critical thinking skills of the younger generation. Gone are the days, and I'd like to say that, don't like to see people who are just waiting and looking at their manager. What do you want me to do? It's more about what options can you show me, and then we can discuss. So that's where the coaching conversations happen. Instead of telling, we ask them to probe further, clarify, and allow the person to give you the answers, not providing the answers. So we've done that for all our people managers, and for every time we hire, they go through that because that's what we want to instill in them. And practice is very important. Sometimes you get tempted with, because you're so accustomed to that. No, you just do this.
Yeah.
So you turn them and tell them, oh, oops, don't do that. You try to probe. It takes a while, but it's a skill that they're developing over time.
Yeah, yeah. And I've always believed that, it's not a one-time thing. Coaching is not one time. It's how you build it as a continuous improvement
Yes.
aspect in the organization
Yes.
that will determine.
Yes. I myself get tempted, but I prevent myself from telling. So
Yeah.
I tell them, so what options are you thinking of?
Mm, mm.
And then when you ask them that, the commitment is much higher because oftentimes the ideas really come from them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always easier to ask, right?
Yes,
Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
exactly. Right. But the generation is very different now.
Mm.
They're more knowledgeable. They have all information around them. So they can actually challenge what you tell them. So the idea is really, how do you learn from each other? And how do you actually have them articulate their thoughts clearly? I think. And when you start doing that, they feel that they're valued. They feel that they're heard and seen. And that motivates them.
So true. So true. So I want to definitely touch upon succession as a topic area because especially for organizations which have been long into business, CHROs as well as CXOs are responsible for putting out succession as an
Right.
important piece. What's been your philosophy, and what are some of the mandates you feel have really helped you to sort of nurture some of that in the roles that you've played?
I think it's all about harnessing the skills at the same time enabling people to explore other roles within the organization.
Mm.
Mobility.
Yeah.
In HR alone, we have given and empowered employees to raise their hand and say, I want to be part of this project. They may be in talent acquisition, working on a particular project that the group is working on, because it gives them the opportunity to learn something new. I remember when we were forming our own operating model in HR, while I was hiring from the external market, I opened roles internally.
Mm.
And while some are not prepared to take on those roles, we took the risk of bringing them there, developing them, coaching them, mentoring them. And most of it was really on the job. So they learn as they go. They struggle if they need to, but they also learn a particular skill. So it's all about that. I think succession planning is important in any organization, but you also have to look at the bigger picture. When you look at succession planning, like in my case in HR, I will not just look at my own HR group. I probably might be able to find someone who might replace me in
Yeah.
other groups.
Mm.
So it boils down to what skills the person has. And that's what we're focusing on. It's more around skills so that when we know that a particular person is good at a particular skill, then maybe that person can move to this role. So the conversations now is not so much about, siloed.
Yeah.
You can now look at talent across the organization because then you have an appreciation of which skills are being developed and who can actually do this role. So again, it's that. Second is the open conversations, open and honest conversations. What are your aspirations? And we oftentimes tell leaders that when you have your day-to-day conversations or maybe career conversations, you need to be explicit in asking, where do you want to bring yourself?
Mm.
Because when you start asking that question, it makes them think. And when they give you something, you do something about that information, provide them with that opportunity. And we've done that many times in our team. When somebody tells me, Nerissa, I want to do this, and I said, any opportunity the next week, you can do it. So, because you have to be agile in a way
Yeah.
to provide that kind of opportunity. You have to be fast. Otherwise, other companies might just look at your
Yeah.
talent and
Yeah.
they leave, right? So it's the casual conversations actually that I think is very important that leaders should start doing, so that they know what people aspire for, so that when they do succession discussion, they know that this person's really wanting this role.
Mm.
So it's not so much about you. We use, of course, a process, the 9 box and all
Mhm.
that, but sometimes it's the side discussions that also is very important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Process can always be followed, but sometimes you need to get on with some of those conversations that
Correct.
dwell into areas that you would have sometimes missed. Uh, I think that whole ability of connecting with humans, that edge to edge is so important.
Yes.
Nothing can replace that vibe, that connection, that energy gets people to open up. While I feel tech is great, tech is important, nothing can get that warm connection
Agree.
away.
Totally agree with that. And
Yeah.
I think that's the benefit of having technology in place.
Yes.
It's supposed to provide us with data,
Yes.
right? It's supposed to make our lives easier so that we free up ourselves to do the more value adding stuff, which is really more about connecting people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what matters, right?
Absolutely. People matter.
Yes.
You've gone through a huge transformation as well. You've led that, you've championed that. Um, what would you say are 2 or 3 takeaways that you would have for organizations and CHROs who might be watching this, to keep in mind when you are anchoring such a large transformation in your journey?
One is you need to understand what support you will require.
Mm-hmm.
Second is you need to understand the capability of your existing team. Are they the team that will bring you to where you want to go? And if the answer is no, then you build.
Yeah.
If not build, you buy. But when you buy and build at the same time, or you need to be able to ascertain that these people will interact positively. And that's what worked for us.
Mhm.
When we did the operating model for HR, it
Yeah.
was a combination of creating new roles that existing people in HR were not aware of or were not accustomed to do. So it's a new thing for them. So when I started bringing in people who had the expertise, they were able to share what they're good at and why they exist, so that they understand what these people are meant to do. And when they see the positive things that's happening, then you change the mindset from, oh, my 10 worksheets a day, I can reduce that to one now.
Mm.
Because when you start letting them understand that can be done because people have seen it outside and you're bringing it inside, is that they're able to learn from these people. So it's that. Second is really when we did the technology transformation, it took me 2 years
Mm.
to really evaluate whether we're ready
Okay.
as a team and as an organization, because it meant really changing the ways of working. So it's really a discipline that we were trying to change. And so by the time the second year happened, I brought in the talent that I think could do it for us, but at the same time, I needed to tell them that the support that we need as well. So it's really a combination of that. It's never easy, to be honest, but at the same time, the conversations that you have, the openness, the authenticity is very important. When they get challenged, where do you come in as a CHRO? What support can you extend to ensure that they make it happen? And most importantly, I think it's the relationships that you build along the way, not only internally, but also with your partners that will make it easy for you. So that worked for us. So I think it's all about people, again, the readiness of the people, the kind of support that you will need, what processes will you need to change for you to transform before you even start transforming through technology. I
Yeah.
think that worked for us.
What I loved about what you said is you looked at internal capability first.
Yes. Yes.
In my experience of interacting with multiple leaders, that's often an area that goes under the carpet.
Yeah.
And it's always easy to just go and buy the most shiny object and sort of put, but are you ready to handle it?
Right.
Can you do what, or can you really harness the full power of
Right.
it?
Correct.
A lot depends on the internal preparedness, openness for sort of doing that.
And you know that when you open that up, when you look at the internal capability, you then understand what their strengths are, and so bring them to where they're good at.
Yeah.
They have history, we don't. I was new, the team I was bringing in, we're all new, so it has to merge.
Mm.
It's like learning from the old learning from the new.
Mm.
And it was just perfect. It was a perfect combination where you see people learning from each other, and at the same time, you're very clear on what the vision is. I think the alignment of the vision was very clear to the team to begin with. So they wouldn't question, why is this person doing this? Why am I only doing this? For us, the communication, why are we doing this to begin with, and how are we going from where we are now to where we need to go. And now we're on our fifth year, now going sixth year.
Wow.
I mean, you see the difference. I mean, we get a lot of feedback from our leaders, from our managers. You've done a fantastic job in transforming not only the ways of working, but also making the lives of people easier. Our leaders spend more time now getting to talk to more people. In the past, they would do a lot of reports.
Yeah.
And so when you see that happening, you feel that you're contributing to their well-being,
Yeah.
and to giving them a more quality work life.
Mm. 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 No, absolutely. And I think that's what some of the tech that we are surrounding ourselves with needs to help and drive. You talked about your operating model,
Right.
and can you give our viewers a bit of sneak peek
Sure.
into that?
So I think this is not new to companies, especially global companies. So when I joined the bank, it was a very traditionally run HR, and not to their fault. It's what they've seen
Okay.
before,
Yeah.
right? And I think the beauty about bringing in people from outside is that they have a different perspective. So it's not like you just tell them this is how it should be. So again, I had to look at the capability. So the operating model that was introduced was really around forming HR business partners
Mm-hmm.
and COEs in place. So in the past, there weren't COE for total rewards, for talent management. We only had talent acquisition and learning and development. Learning and development was even outside of HR.
Wow.
It was split, but by the time I joined, it was part of my remit. And of course, the HR service delivery. On my second year, we developed a HR or HCM transformation team because their role is really to transform and help us with the processes that we had at the time. So that was the operating model. So that was communicated to the business leads. I said the HR business partners are not admins. They're not your admin assistant, they're your partners. Because other companies, believe it or not, their HRBPs are called HRBPs, but they're not really business partners. Our HRBPs are very, very different. They actually spend more time with the businesses. They're there when it comes to succession discussions, when there are talent challenges. They're there. And because now it's automated,
Yeah.
it's easier. In the past, it was a evolution. In the past, we would work on Excels, and then now because we have automation in place, then the work is much easier. So they have more time now talking to people, talking to employees, and because they report to me directly, I now have a view of what are the issues for each segment, for each group. So those are the conversations that we're having. Attrition data, these are basic information, but other companies just talk about that.
Yeah.
Reports. We're trying to be more futuristic. We're trying to be more enabling. So, in fact, what I visualize or my vision of the HR business function is that they try to work now and upskill themselves when it comes to predictive analytics, right? Trying to understand what does it mean when somebody resigns, or what are the things that we can watch out for. So it's a skill that I want for us to start learning
Mm-hmm.
because it's more it will strengthen the function and it becomes more effective for the business. Yeah.
Lovely, lovely. One of our researches, which is the CHRO effectiveness study that we did in Southeast Asia, where we actually went and asked CHROs where are they spending time, what's their aspiration. We also asked CEOs, what do you expect out of your CHROs? Map that data, pretty interesting insights and patterns. On the aspiration part, actually 5 out of 10 CHROs expect, sort of put out that we want to look at a more C-suite role. We want to look at board opportunities. We want to look at maybe owning business aspect of things, maybe in some of the subdivisions, some P&L responsibilities.
Right.
What's your take on that? And how do you see the role of CHROs now evolving further as well?
It can actually.
Yeah.
But again, it boils down to the aspiration of an individual.
Yes.
Right. In my case, I don't aspire to be a business leader, but I aspire maybe in the future to be a board member. And why so? You've seen the growth and the transformation that you've done. And obviously you want to still be in that space where you can still start influencing the progression of what you've started. So I think that's ultimately where I want to go. It can be within Security Bank or it can be with another company where my skills probably may be required. But it's really enabling organizations to look at HR as a function that will really play a very critical role in future-proofing an organization. So it's a very critical role. And friends of mine are actually looking at, I want to be a CEO, I want to be a business head. I remember my first boss at Philips, he was the head of HR, eventually became a head of business until he became a president.
Wow.
But that's not my career path.
Sure.
I'm happy where I am. I do think that with my role, I'm still able to influence and make a difference. And I'm just happy learning and evolving as a person, as a CHRO.
Yeah. Of all the founders that I meet and CEOs that I interact with, I've always said that, we need a more people representation as part of the board discussions, especially because at a time when industries are going through change, business models are going through the change. If you don't have the workforce, if you don't have the skills, how are
Right.
you going to sort of transform?
Correct.
It doesn't happen by a magic wand being sort of used. You need deep capabilities that are being built, and if you don't have that, and if you're not thinking at the board level for driving that, somewhere organizations would get left behind.
Right.
And I think that's a big area and opportunity for a lot of CHROs to then elevate and sort of play, is where I feel some of that work needs to happen. And I feel more and more CEOs should embrace that and build that forward as well.
Right.
If you were to give some advice to maybe a younger Nerissa who's starting off the career in people and work, in talent, in HR, I'm sure there are so many of them who are aspiring to be a Nerissa as well. What would be that message?
Keep stretching yourself.
Okay.
I think that's one, and learn from others. Look at the good things about the good leaders that you admire, pick out the good things, the bad, drop it, and combine and put your own authentic self into it. You can't copy, so you have to bring your own authentic self when you do things, right? People will see through you if it's oh, she's not being original or she's not being
Yeah.
authentic. So at the end of the day, bring yourself to what you do, be authentic. I sometimes tell my team I'm very vulnerable. When I'm nervous, they see me nervous. I tell them I don't know this thing. When you start having those discussions, it allows people to be more authentic because, oh, Nerissa, I don't know how to do this. It's okay. We can work this out. If I don't know something, I tell them, you're smarter than me. You explain to me how this is done.
Yeah.
So when the conversations are at that level, the atmosphere that you're actually providing is much safer for people to speak up, for people to give ideas, and so on and so forth. So stretch yourself, put yourself in uncomfortable situations so you know how you survive or will you survive, and you will not want to fail. That's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, lovely. I think the greatest of work rarely comes from comfort zones.
Yes.
So really
Right.
need to put that out. But really happy for all the transformation that you've been driving.
Thank you.
And
It's the
success.
team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the team that's sort of putting that work in an authentic way. And I think it's an opportunity to serve not just our people, but also to the family and the ecosystem.
Exactly.
That's lovely having this
Thank
conversation.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.